Hello everybody, and welcome to a video by StampWithLorraine.com. I'm Lorraine Sish, and I'm so excited that you stopped by today because I'm going to show you an interesting way of making cards using just the die cuts as your focal points. No stamping involved, just stamping your sentiment and using the die cuts plain as they are. And if you really like this video, please give me a thumbs up down below. And also don't forget to head on over to my blog where you can find more information on this project and others. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. So don't forget to sign up for my mailing list once you're on the blog. So enjoy the video, and I hope I can inspire you to do some interesting things today. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to use the plain die cuts as your focal point on your cards. No stamping needed except for your sentiment. I'm using the Poppy Moments die cuts that match with the Painted Poppies stamp set. Some dies don't necessarily match up with the actual images. So such as this one, it mimics some of the patterns of the images on the stamp set, but this one doesn't necessarily even have a stamp that goes with it, but they can coordinate as well. Some of them do cut out the flowers and the other leaves, but some of them are additional to what you have the stamp set, but it coordinates with the Painted Poppies. So this is the one we're using. It's just a solid die cut, and it looks like this once you cut it out. All right, so I'm going to show you really quick and easy ways that you can use that. I cut out 2 of them, and I'm going to be using a base of Balmy Blue, which is your typical 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then I have a layer, my next layer, which is 1/4 inch short of that, of course, so 5 1/4 by 4. And then I have a layer of Designer Series paper, which this is from one of my new favorites. This is the You're a Peach Designer Series paper. Has these beautiful peach and flowers and leaves, and it's just so summery and sweet. I love the blue it mixed in there with that. So really pretty paper. So today I'm actually using this one and the back for another card. So just that same sheet, I'm going to get both cards on it. But look how pretty all that is. I just love it. So bright and cheery, and it coordinates with the stamp set and die cuts, of course. So coordinates with Sweet Peach. Okay, so I'll be doing more with that some other time. And of course, because I'm not going to see much here, you know I like to do a few punches. Take out some of that, and I could use it later. I'm going to use the Everyday Label, and that way I can use those for my sentiments later. I could even use it for this card if I wanted to, but I have another plan. Okay, so just put those aside for another time. And that's going to go under there. Did I ever tell you what I do with my glue? Let me show you in a second. I have a confession. I never put the cap on. Just too much trouble. You're like, what? Why doesn't it dry out? Well, it's because I have it in this jar, and I just keep it like this so that all the glue stays in the tip. So I don't have to, like, I don't store it like this, and then every time I use it, I have to shake it down. I mean, I have to shake it down once in a while anyway, but I just leave it in my jar, and because it's touching the bottom, which has gotten a little gummy anyway, which is okay, it kind of just seals off that way, and it doesn't come out, and it doesn't dry out, and I use it quickly enough anyway, but it's kind of dirty. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so I never bother even putting the cap on. If you want, you can even put just a little damp paper towel on the bottom of that. Some people do that. Okay, so I'm going to put the designer paper on there. Again, it's Balmy Blue. Okay, and from the Stitch So Sweetly, I die cut this little rectangle. Going to use that on there. And basically we're just going to take those die cuts and kind of spread them on there like that. So they're just making, we just have the silhouette. We don't have any detail in there. So I'm going to put this part together, then I'm going to pop this up with dimensional dots, of course. Of course, I'm going to put just a little glue on the bottom of here, not on the top because that's going off the page. Anyway, so put this one down first. Okay, then I went to my little bin of many messages and picked something out, and I just thought this was, all kind of busy, so I didn't want too much going on, so I just took this sending happy thoughts, and we're going to put that there just like that. I love having those already available. Let's pick something out. So far I've just done Memento Black on the white, but of course you can do any color. My next task would be to do some white embossing on black because I do love that look as well. All right, so we'll put some dimensional dots on there real quick. Okay, and very sweet. Even though these types of leaves are not in the designer paper, I thought it looked nice because this was kind of soft and delicate, and this was a little bit more plain, so you're able to see it. Also, the curves of the stems kind of can match the curves of there, so you have some elements that work. So how pretty is that? Of course, you'll put some white on the inside there. Okay, so that's that. Just a reminder, here's the Many Messages stamp set. And it's one big stamp. You stamp the whole thing on your paper, and it's one big die cut to cut out all those little mini labels. Now, a lot of them are tiny, but as you can see on this one, it often works. Or you can make it into a little tag that hangs down, perhaps, or whatever. And of course, if you wanted to, you can put little pearls or whatever embellishments you want on there. Okay, so then here's the piece that I cut those little branches out of. Let me put it on here so that you can see better. I just had a strip of scrap paper, and I was able to fit them both on there. I'm saying, okay, I'm not throwing that away. We can use it. So keep that in mind. Again, I like to be frugal and make the most out of the materials that I have. So if you take a piece of designer paper, this is from the, let me get the name right, Beauty of the Earth, which is the set with the trees. That's new to the annual catalog 2021. Take a piece of designer paper and put it behind. So now it's filling in the gap. So it's kind of like the negative look. So I'm going to glue that down. Okay, making sure I get these little points here because you don't want those sticking up. They could pull up. And I'm doing this on my silicone mat because if any glue goes off the side, whatever, it's not going to make my paper mat sticky. It will stay on here, and this just, once the glue dries, it just rubs off very easily. So look at that, isn't that pretty? I just love how that looks. So now let's use that as our focal element. I'm going to put that on Mellow Moss. I'm also today trying to use some colors that I don't normally use. Sometimes you gravitate to certain colors all the time, or I know I've been doing a lot with the new in colors because they're new and exciting. But I'm going to, I looked through my colors and, ooh, I haven't really used certain ones in a while. So, all right, look how pretty is that? I love it. I love it. So nice. So I resisted my temptation to use the Tasteful Textile again, the embossing folder, because that is one of my favorites. So I instead used the hammered metal, okay, which I do like, but it is a more bold, kind of a bumpy look. You know what, I should turn this light on. There we go, that's a little bit better. A little bit more of a bumpy look. It could almost be almost snakeskin if you wanted that kind of a look too. But it looks like, you know, the old-fashioned where you hammered the metal, like the copper. I remember seeing that a lot in like colonial days, is it? I don't know. So we're going to put this on here. You can use it either way. One side, the ridges are up. The other side, you have the ridges are indented, and you have the more, almost a cobblestone kind of a feel to that texture. Okay, so like I said, my first thought was to go to the Tasteful Textile. I said, okay, I've got to use other things once in a while. Otherwise, what good is having them, right? So I also keep just a little cup here for my like dimensional dot backings or little pieces of paper. I keep that here. Sometimes when I put my glue down, I end up throwing my glue into that, and I have to peel off all the scraps from my glue tip. But that's okay. All right, so we got that. I'm going to put on the dimensional dots and pop that up. Oops. Okay, this is one of those cards that can also be a masculine card. Go for anybody. This has the leaves. And to be honest, when you have something this textured, it is good to use a lot of adhesive, or definitely the dimensional dots, because they are very sticky and they're not going to come off of this textured piece here. And again, I went to my bin with the many messages and I pulled out, hooray, it's your birthday. I'm going to just put that there and overlap. Now, something to consider, because I want this overlap, I have dimensionals under here, so I don't want to put dimensionals on both sides of these unless I double the right side, because there's already one layer of dimensionals there. But I think what I'll do is I'll just put the dimensionals on this side and a little dot of glue on this side. Okay, I don't think I need it up again. So that's what I'll do. Put that on the right side. And just a little dot of glue to tack that down over there. That way it's even. Okay, so there you go. See, only stamping is this, and today I didn't even do the stamping because I did this ahead of time. So that's kind of fun. I just love that. So that's the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. Let me show you that. So this is what I use. This is one sheet. I'll show you more another time. It has these splotchy look of a forest. You know, the little pine trees all kind of blurred, and it's an ombre look, going from darker to lighter up at the top. And I used the back of this for something else, so I just wanted to use a little piece of this underneath the those other leaves, because it really gave some nice color and texture. So this is the other side of the page where it has this beautiful watercolory look, and out of the 12 by 12 sheet, one side of it goes from the dark to sort of the faded, looks misty as you go further, like further in the background. And then you have the same thing on the other side. So you can use it both ways. This, and you can cut it in half, and then you get more out of it that way as well. So it's very versatile that way. So this is what I used on the next card. Put those down. Looks really pretty on the Misty Moonlight. That's one of the colors that's in there. So I picked up on the blues and had the contrast with the Merlot and other brownie colors. All right, and then I took a strip and I put that on the inside to pull that element inside. And I took that same die cut and I did it in black this time. All right. And again, went to my bin for a sentiment, and I decided to make this one into a sympathy card, because unfortunately, we'll be needing a lot of sympathy cards here and there. So I thought, again, this could be a masculine card, or I thought it worked as a sympathy card. So I'm just using, again, two of these. I'm going to make just a little spray across here, and put my saying on there. Okay, now let me just do that real quick. And then I already have my mini dimensionals on the back here. So we'll take those dimensionals off. There we go, much better. And we're just going to put my sentiment right there. Nope, a little crooked. Okay, so real pretty, right? Okay, I just love that paper. So nice. Can't wait to play more with it. And it comes with the dies and the stamp set, of course, but I'll show you more of that another time. Like I said, just took a little strip of that DSP and brought it on the inside and could write my message. Okay, so that's card number 3. All right, so moving on to a different die cut. We'll be using this one here from the hand pen. Okay, so after I cut this die cut out, it comes out looking like this. I'm not going to show you that part because most of you know how to do that. Using a color here that I haven't always used is the Rich Razzleberry. I haven't done that one in a long time. I have my white card base, standard base, my next layer. I'm going to glue that on. And this is a Tasteful Textile. I love it. Just adds that subtle look that's just not so plain. Makes it a little more rich. Rich Razzleberry. Okay, and then I'm using some Designer Series paper that is the 6x6. It comes in all the in colors and the color families. So this is a 6x6. Every year it's a different pattern, and each color family and each in color group has the same pattern, just in their own unique colors. Okay, and last time we talked about using scraps. I went to my gold and found some scraps. This way I didn't have to put a whole layer of gold behind here, but I needed a little something because without it, it was very bland. So we're just going to use the scrap to put a little edging on here. So that's another way you can use up your scraps. You don't have to put the whole thing. So I'm just going to show you how I did that because it's a little thin and hard to do. So I'm just going to put a little line of glue, not thick because of course when you press it down it's going to spread. And I'm going to keep my strip like that and just lay it over top, going to try to match the same amount on both sides. Okay, so how easy is that? Easier to put the glue on the bigger piece than on the skinny piece and have it spread too much. Silicone mat is good because as you can see, sometimes it's going to come through, so that'll dry. And we're going to put this on here. Putting that right in the middle or close to it. Then we're just going to take that die cut and put it right there on that. So because this is so skinny, there are tiny lines on this. It's going to be hard for me to just use my glue and dot it. So I'm going to remind you of another way to do this. Of course, if you wanted to put it on the adhesive sheets before you die cut it, that's always an option. But if not, I keep this little sponge dauber in my little case here with little water to keep it from getting hard and dried out. So what you can do is put a little bit of glue on your silicone mat. Dab it with your sponge and then dab that right onto your, make sure you have enough on there that it's juicy but not sticky because it will pull up your little lines here if it's sticky and you might tear it. So make sure it's juicy enough glue on there. Just be careful. I almost did tear it because see, it's getting a little sticky. So I probably should have had just a little bit more glue on there. All right, let's stick it down on the card. And look how pretty that is. It really pops, right? All right, so I'll put that back in my bin and move this aside. And again, from the many messages, I picked out just a card to say hello. And yes, I'm going to be using the dimensionals. I might just use black this time because this card is kind of dark. So I like to use this is my old pick tool, but you can use your regular take a pick tool. Okay, there you go. Really pretty, right? So you have a little bit of shine, tiny bit, and the white really pops up against the dark DSP and the background. All right, so there you go, card number 4. Now, another idea. This is what I cut out with that die cut. And what I also did was that I cut one out in the gold, okay, in the gold foil. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do now is, remember I said you can use the pieces creatively that you cut your dies cuts out of. So for this one, I am using, again, a color I don't use very much, but I think it looks really nice with gold, is the pumpkin pie. We think of it in the fall, but you know, we're using it for the summer flowers here. And behind here, I'm going to put some of that DSP, again, from the same 6x6 variety pack. I'm going to put that behind that. And then I'm going to inlay that gold right back on top of there. So you have a very different look, and I don't know if the camera can pick that up too well, but you can see the little bit of design behind there so it doesn't, again, it doesn't look too plain. And if you wanted, you could do this as well, but I just thought that looked a little plain. I wanted a little variety back there. So I took, this piece, as you can see, is a little smaller than what I normally do with 5 1/4 by 4. So this one is 5 by 3 3/4. So again, kick down a notch about 1/4. This little DSP is 3 by 3 1/2, so it can fit in the back here. Okay, because this is 3 3/4, it fits nicely there, and I have enough room over here to cover what's behind it. So I'm going to glue that down. And now, because you don't want to put glue on here because you might end up coming through here. So make sure you put your glue on this piece. You can see this is a piece that I was experimenting with something else on. And I'm going to, again, use my mat. That part's gluey, so let me just rub that off. See how this just comes off? I love it. So I'm going to put the glue on here because you want to make sure you get as close as you can to these little pieces because you don't want them popping up too much. So I'm just going to go around that. Make sure I get the edge. You know, the tippy tips, you know, tiny pieces, that's not a big deal. But, you know, you do want to make sure you kind of get in there. Okay. And we'll put that down there. Okay, and like we did with the other, I'm going to dab glue on the back of that. Again, now the foil is a little firmer than the cardstock, but I'm just going to make sure I have enough glue there so it's liquidy, especially on the fine parts. Now you want to make sure you don't move this because then you will be getting glue on the front, and the foil especially will show up the glue. It's not very forgiving. It's kind of like glossy paint. It shows more of the imperfections. Okay, so there we go. I'm just going to inlay that back into the piece that I cut out. Hope you can see this. Right there. And because you're using the glue, you have a little wiggle room to make sure it gets in there properly. Okay, so that's really pretty. And because this is so pretty, I didn't feel a need to do any other background work here or emboss it. I just wanted that to show through. So that's going to go on there. I'm taking another piece of that same DSP. It has little dots and lines on one side. It has these little square patterns. I'm just going to carry that over to here and then put our sentiment on. Again, notice I did absolutely no stamping today. Just the sentiments were pre-done with that one big Mini Messages stamp set. And cut out with the dies. So it's nice to have half of the work done for you already. I'm going to glue that down. Then I took my double oval punch and picked up on the foil and cut my oval out of that for the background. So we're going to carry over a little bit of that gold. And then I'm going to cut the smaller oval out of white. I'm going to stamp it with black. I experimented with keeping it with the pumpkin pie, but it just didn't stand out enough. And I'm more often a fan of a darker font, you know, just that showing through. Okay, so something to think about with the double oval punch. I'm doing this for you in person here because I want you to remember that as you're punching this, if I were to try to do this on a bigger piece of paper and cut just the bottom part, it's also going to cut this. So sometimes that's okay. You can put it aside for later, but sometimes you don't want to waste that piece, or maybe it's something else. So when you want just the inner oval, start with a thinner strip of paper. That way you can get it in there and not worry about the little excess. Just something to keep in mind when you're using a punch like this. Okay, so we have the happy birthday. Put that on the gold foil scalloped oval. This is one of my favorite punches now. I always like the ovals. Kind of that cross between, not a big circle, takes up a little less space. Cross between the circle and the rectangle, right? Okay, and let's put a couple dimensionals on there. I'm going to just cut from my edges. And I have one more to show you. Kind of a expansion on this one. Okay, so I'm going to put that right there. Overlap. And pretty, right? So something different to do there. Okay, so next I told you that I was going to use the back of this designer paper. Well, here we go. We have stripes, these nice hand-painted looking stripes in Calypso Coral. So we're going to be putting that there. Again, it's going to be covered, so I'm going to use my everyday label and cut some labels. Okay, I'm going to glue that down. Now, using the same hand pen dies that I used before, I die cut the detailed piece. Oh, here, let me do it this way. I die cut the detailed piece, and there's a piece that coordinates with the stamp. So here's the stamp itself, and then you have the die cut that can cut that whole piece out for you. And if there are stamps that will help you stamp the flowers in there, like a two-tone, and this is what you would end up with. So this card, you can see, was stamped with the stamps to color in the leaves and the flowers, but then that whole thing was die cut with this die. So what I did, I took one of each of these, the detail and this piece here, and we're going to layer those two, just the white on white, and it's going to give sort of like an embossed look. And of course you could do different colors on this too. If you wanted to do this piece with just the white and then have the color in the background, you can. But I was just kind of sticking to the white and black. I already have enough options showing you today. All right, so again, here we go. We have to sponge the adhesive on the back of that. And I'm going to just use a spot over here that I don't already have glue. Remember, don't move it. Okay. Then I'll just layer the white on white. Remember, I did some cards like this a little while ago. We called it faux embossing because the one layer sticks up and it looks embossed. It's really just two layers of the cardstock. Let me put that on the back here and then you can see what that looks like. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do the DSP from the Europeach, and in the contours, color and contour stamp set, there is a coordinating die, Scalloped Contours dies, coordinates with the color and contour stamp set, and these are the dies that go with it. So this would cut out the flower with the stem. This cuts out a different flower, almost a daisy or mum looking type flower. All these beautiful frames right here, and then it has a little scallop. So you can see that's what I used on the bottom here, just to give it a little something different than just a plain edge. I thought that was fun. And I will glue, oh, you know what? I made a little boo-boo here. I wonder if this is still, no. Okay, I wanted to tie a ribbon around there. See it, I'm getting ahead of myself. I wonder if I can do it around just the DSP. Yeah, I'll give it a try. Typically I like to do it around the cardstock, but I'll see what I can do. This is the faux linen from the Flowers for Every Season combo pack. And I'm just going to tie a knot. And I was experimenting. I tied a knot the other day, and I didn't like the direction that these were hanging off, because one was hanging over here, one over here, and I'm going to put this over here, and it was sort of in the way. So think about how you're tying it. If it's going in the wrong direction, just go back and think about it again. If you went left over right and under first and then right over left, well then just switch it. Go right over, you know what I mean. Switch the order that you cross over and go under, and then see if it gets in the right direction. Because even if you turned it around, then it's going to, because it's symmetrical, but just sort of an opposite way, it's still going to come out, with the tails in the wrong direction. All right, so because this is pretty thin, I'm just going to glue this down. I think it'll work. And because the background is white and the ribbon is white, I'm not missing that too much. Okay, so I'm going to just glue this right down. I'm not going to use the dimensionals. I'm saving the dimensionals for my sentiment. Of course, you could do it either way. And because this is so plain, it stands out against the bold background. I'm going to slip a glue dot underneath there to hold the knot down so it doesn't pop up. Use my little pick tool, get that under there, and trim this and this. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I get a little glue under here to hold it still. It's thin enough that the glue would go through from the top as well, but I just like to be sure. I don't like gapping ribbon. And I'm going to put this to the top so I have the same amount on the sides and the top. And then I have a little bit down below the scallop to really show that off. Okay, and this time I stamped thank you from, where is it? Oh, from the Pansy Patch. Love these fonts. Took the thank you. It was small enough there. Again, I didn't want to overwhelm anything. Stamped that and used one of the stitched, I want to make sure I get it right. Stitch So Sweetly die cuts. And I did do the sentiment in Calypso Coral there just to kind of keep it monochromatic. And I will cut a little of these. Pop it up. And you have many ways to use those. Just plain die cuts. No additional stamping. I'm going to overlap this just a little bit. I thought the scallops on this mimic the scallops here, so it's a nice little tie over. And of course, to put something, put your white underneath there and tie in something, maybe another piece of DSP that's coordinating with this, not just necessarily that, or put a little flower or something in there. So there we go. Let me just clear off right here, and then we'll bring them all back for the final show. Started off with just the Balmy Blue and just that. Then we did it in black. Then we used the hand penned dies just as is. And then I inserted it, did a little inlay. Oh, we forgot this one using the reverse. I'll put that over here. And then we did the inlays. And then we did the white on white, like a faux embossed look. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching. Wow, I'm so glad I was able to share all those special ideas with you with just using the die cuts as your focal point. And if you do your messages ahead of time, punch them out with punches or with your die that matches with the many messages set, you're going to have a ton of cards you'll be able to make just like that. So don't forget the thumbs up down below, please. And also head on over to my blog and hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.